I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, August the 11th. Brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Weaning high-risk cattle this fall. Mass treat with the tulathromycin injection that's more affordable. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. They're expecting about 8,000 head of cattle here on Monday for the regular feeder cattle auction. It's going to start at 5 o'clock in the morning. They'll get on big bunches, quick, before 7 at least. They've got at least 75 loads of yearlings. You can put a lot of cattle together there really fast. You can view and bid that sale at DVAuction.com. False alarm, and you can't go into a crowded theater and yell fire, watch people trample all over themselves, but apparently you can take a snapshot of a video of something eating cow's flesh or calf and put it on the internet and things like that. I don't know who put out the false alarm that we had a screwworm in Oklahoma, but it was a big deal on Friday, partly for your board being down 9 1/4 on your August feeders, or most all your months of feeders. It's just crazy that kind of thing can happen. But this market is real sensitive. Everybody knows we're near the top, or we don't have much more room above us, and we have a lot of room below us. But people got really excited about that. But if you Googled it, you couldn't really find anything. But they did receive a complaint or a message or some kind of call. Went into Oklahoma Animal Disease Diagnostic Laboratory, and they took samples of what it was, and it turned out to be just blowfly maggots, which that doesn't sound very good. But if you've got a dead calf somewhere, the maggots are going to set in pretty quick. The maggots will set in your trash can pretty quick if you get hot temperatures like this and things get rotten. But that's a natural progression of things decaying. But USDA did assign the case a foreign animal disease investigation number. I'm not sure what all that implies, but it was a real deal, or a real case, or a real complaint, or whatever it was. And who put that out, I don't know. Were they short the cattle futures? Likely. But those cattle futures took a huge dive on Friday. Live cattle on August was down 620, and like I said, your August feeder cattle down 9 1/4, and most all your back months were also down that much. There's just a huge sell-off. What we don't know is if all of that was due to these false stories about the screwworm. Likely the board was probably going to back up some on Friday anyway, but the heck of it is, when you got these algorithms now and all the trades are done by the computer, and then some of these local brokerages that trade in the futures, they got algorithms, and since they're just that much closer, they can set up the board to run little orders right ahead of all these other orders coming in. And whenever you've got some sell orders coming in, they just run it way past where it needed to go. And so we saw that happen on Friday. Actually, a lot of cattle growers and cattle feeders were putting off a sigh of relief, because so many of them have been buried in these margin calls that they got some margin back on Friday, and they was glad to get it back, but they hated to see the market sell off there. But it's just going to be very interesting what happens here today on Monday. Early early on the open. Is this board going to pop back up there? Is it going to jump and regain most of those losses that it saw on Friday, or is it going to continue down? I don't. We'll just have to see. But we all know that had something to do with it. But a lot of the people I talk to don't think that just that false alarm on that screwworm scare there was all of it. They thought the market was going to go down anyway. But just like this thing has always done, your fat cattle trade stayed good, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. We've got the highest no BS individual quote that I've ever seen. It's going to be the highest. I'm confident that this one is going to stand for a long time, so it'll be interesting when we get there. Your market was good all last week until Friday, and a lot of that was to do with Brazil and the tariffs that got put on them and got enacted last week. A 50% tariff. Trump's trying to show them a lesson there a little bit, but that 50% tariff on the beef was already running a 26.4% tariff after they reached their initial amount that they could send us, and then it went up. So now that's 76.4%. It's basically going to stop imports of beef from Brazil, and they were sending more than they ever had. Percentage-wise, it's not huge compared to all of the beef we have in this country, but it's going to be significant. It's going to make our cows higher. Slaughter cows selling near $2 a pound at a lot of sale barns around. And my friend Matt Lowry, world champion livestock auctioneer, was showing where he had sold some dry cows. They were just running on grass, but these cows were fat and huge. Cows weighed 1964 and bring $1.90 at Columbus Sales Pavilion there. But wow, it's big money for a slaughter cow. Always talking about all these high quotes. What can you order some cattle that can be put together worth the money for? Ellison Carter Cattle Company down there in Santo, Texas, just near Weatherford, Texas. He's got about 50 different order buyers putting cattle together all through Central Texas. He can put you a load together, and he gave me some quotes on what he put together this week and was shipping over the weekend. And I'll start out telling you those. Had steers and bulls. These would be delivered prices mostly to the Texas Panhandle or western Oklahoma from North Texas. 325 pound steers and bulls bring 509 delivered. Blacks, they were all blacks, be really good cattle. Some that weighed 365 pounds at 410 delivered. Now they would have been a little plainer and had some crossbreds on. 380 pounders at 448, all blacks. 430 pounders delivered for 385, and they would have been some crossbreds and a little plainer type cattle there. They had 550 pounders delivered for 327. They'd be a little bit plain, but Okies and not crossbreds, and that's kind of what Okies, for lack of a better definition, they're crossed up but just English. So they'd be pretty good cattle. You could probably about go anywhere when they get to be yearlings. 675 pounders and had some cutting bulls on them delivered for 295. Now some heifers. 330 pounders at 424, and they'd be black. 465 pounders at 378, and they'd be a tick plainer. 470 pounders at 380, they'd be black. 492 pounders at 350, and they'd be plainer. Now the rest will be all blacks. 545 pounders delivered for 359. 555 pounders delivered for 357, and these are all blacks. 600 pounders at 331, blacks, and 710-pound string of heifers there, bought locally, and not out of the auctions, but just locally there at 310 delivered, and they were all black heifers. So that's what you could order some of them. If you're interested in them, go to ellisandcartercattle.com. Let's talk about your board for last week. August live cattle futures, Monday was up 77, Tuesday up 337, Wednesday up 202, Thursday up 245, and Friday down 620. So your August live cattle futures ended the week at 230, 255. That was still up 243 for the week. October ended the week at 225.97, up $1.20. August feeder cattle, Monday was up 82, Tuesday up 565, Wednesday up 397, Thursday up 362, and then Friday down 9 1/4. But August feeder cattle futures ended the week at 339.40, still up 483 for the week. September ended the week at 340.37, up 645. Futures, corn, or grain futures, corn, Chicago Board of Trade, December new crop, 405.5, ending the week. That was down 5 1/4 cents for the week. November beans, that's new crop, 987.5, down 1 3/4 cents. And September hard red winter wheat ended the week at 518 1/4, down 1/2 cent a bushel. Your fat cattle trade never took place until Friday. We went all the way through, all the trades together in the 5-area feeding region negotiated through Thursday, amounted to 2,200 head. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then Friday, we had some. Of course, that lower futures spurred the trade a little bit, but they still ended up getting a good price for the fat cattle and basically steady with last week, or the previous week. So the board was not able to break the fat cattle market. They did keep it from gaining ground, but it still hung in there pretty good. The Fed Cattle Exchange helped that out on Friday morning. They had their online auction. They sold cattle in Iowa for $245, and that was before most of the trade started. That was the top price that was achieved there. They did sell some cattle in Texas. The beef on dairy cattle bid the grid at $240.5, but I think that helped the Texas Panhandle and Kansas also get the most out of their market. But on Friday, negotiated direct sales out of the 5-area feeding region. They had 9,900 in Iowa, 10,800 for the week. Iowa sold cattle on Friday from 239 to 245, and dress sales from 378 to 385. Nebraska sold 7,600 head confirmed, just 100 more than that for the whole week. Live sales 242 to 245, dress sales 374 to 385. Kansas and Texas, actually USDA did not get any confirmed sales out of them on Friday because it didn't take place until after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They had sold 600 through the week, mostly on the Fed Cattle Exchange. But they did have late negotiated direct sales out of Kansas and Texas, mostly at 235. There was some 232, but mostly 235. And that's mostly steady to spots $1 lower in Kansas there. But actually not a bad market after you didn't get anything done all week. The packers didn't want to do anything all through the week because the futures were up every day and everything was looking so high. And then they sure wanted to take advantage of the break on the futures there. But we'll see what happens this week. Box beef cutout values were sharply higher. And that is one thing that is helping the packers out. Finally, we've hit the seasonal bottom for box beef cutouts, and now they're taking off again and doing it in a fast pace here. Your weighted average on all of last week's sales on choice cuts, $373.67. That was up $9.99. That's a big gain, especially on the weighted average. And then your late Friday sales choice cuts were up another over $5 more than the weighted average at $378.84. So that's a snappy dressed wholesale beef market there. The weighted average on all of last week's select cuts, $349.55, up $7.13 from the weighted average of previous week. And then your late Friday sales on selects were up another $4.50 compared to the weighted average at $355.09. Your choice select spread on the weighted average was $24.12, and all that based on 469 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, and that 469 is nothing. Just that's very, very little trade. But your slaughter last week, it kind of improved after a really, really light Monday, but it's steadily improved after that. Finally ended up with a whole week's estimated cattle slaughter of 536,000. That's 1,000 more than the previous week, but 52,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Kansas Regenerative Medical Center. Transform your health with stem cell therapy. Not stem cells out of aborted fetus. They're your own stem cells. They're going to treat you back with them, and it's amazing how well it works. Before you have a risky surgery, especially orthopedic type, check into Kansas RMC and see if they can't help you without having to take that risk. For more information, go to kansasrmc.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index through the whole week, ended the week, that's based on an 800-pound cash auction steer, 7-day moving average. Real-time index ended the week at 342.64. That was up 487 for the week, nearly $5 higher on a 7-day moving average, with tons of volume in there, up nearly $5. That's very impressive. Your big sales late last week and over the weekend, Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska. Now that's one of those premium sales up there in a really good spot. The Yellow Brick Road there. They had their customer appreciation barbecue special, and it was really, really special. And the boar being down $9 didn't seem to bother it really. They had a lot of cattle, 4,100, and that included several cows in there that they sold. But it was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard Cattle Equipment, stick-out sale of the day. Check out this automated market report from Cattle Market Central, and you see your best tested weights. It was mainly your best tested weight group was 9-weight steers, but we had some others that were not too bad. How about 141 6-weight steers, average 659 at 404.17. There were 139 head of 7-weight steers, they averaged 745 at 362.04. 166 head of 8-weight steers in Burwell averaged 846 at 348.32. Get this, 2,095 head of just 9-weight steers in Burwell, Nebraska. Wow. They averaged 927 pounds and had a weighted average price of $343.08. They had 116 light 10-weight steers. They averaged 1024 at $336.14. Look at some of the heifers. 187 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 652 at $371.83. 208 head of the 7-weights averaged 738 at $339.95. There were 185 head of 8-weight steers there, or heifers, excuse me, averaged 853 pounds at $317.07. And 351 of the 9-weight heifers averaged 932 at $306.31. The most impressive individual quote out of Burwell, and I mean it was a big lot there. They had 449 head in one swath. I mean that individual had a lot of cattle. This would be one guy's cattle. Weighed 918 pounds, and they bring 346.50. That's $3,181 a head. He's going to get a check somewhere around $1.4 million. Wow, that would be nice. How about some other quotes from all around the circuit? How about Manhattan Commission Company in Manhattan, Kansas? On Friday, they sold 74 steers, weighed 757 at 370. Go out east for a quote. Bluegrass Stockyards in Richmond, Kentucky. On Friday, they had 117 head of 914-pound steers through the ring in Richmond, Kentucky, bring 331. But I'm going to blow your socks off. This is the biggest quote I've ever gotten. That's the biggest quote I've ever seen. Your Macrison, no BS, top quote for the day on Friday was out of Bloomington Livestock, Wisconsin. Bloomington Livestock Exchange in Bloomington, Wisconsin, excuse me. They sneak in there sometimes. They've got farmer feeders and good cattle. They sell 116 steers, weighed 805, and bring 379. Wow. $3,050 a head for one just weighing a pinch over 8. That's awfully good, guys. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.